Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys all had an awesome holiday weekend. We are getting back into the week of content with a pretty grandiose title, as you guys read. This is a topic that I'm surprised I haven't seen more people talk about. Maybe I'm just a little bit more excited for it than I should be, but it's kind of crazy, and we'll get into it in the video. But before that, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, of course. Hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways down in the description to do so. But today, guys, if you're looking for custom sleeves, play mats, any TCG accessories like that, I have to redirect you to yourplaymat.com. That link will get you 10% off your order down in the description. But their stuff is so high quality, guys. I always talk about their art sleeves. I love the fact that they do not peel. Most art sleeves you'll find at local game stores, especially the ones that come from like the Bandai company or any other games that you guys play. Typically, you're going to notice that they peel. These ones don't peel. They're so high quality. I don't have to double sleeve them, which I absolutely love. Anyways, again, link in the description, 10% off your order. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about this combo. Now, if you guys have been here for quite some time playing the Dragon Ball Super card game, you probably know the combo that I'm talking about, either based on the thumbnail or just the fact that I called it a broken combo. It was very powerful back in the day. But if you guys are new here, I'm talking about the Chain Attack Zeno combo. Now, we'll go through the cards before I guess we actually get into the purpose of the combo. So, the first card you need for this, at least back in the day, was Intensifying Power Trunks. Now, the main thing he served as was a one-drop Trunks to evolve into Chain Attack Trunks. I believe he was the only one-drop Trunks back in that time period, and we're pretty much looking at the set 3 to about the set 5 days, if I'm not mistaken. In set 3, this combo was very popular. It was even arguably the best deck at the beginning of the set 3 format, and then it kind of waned off in popularity as time went on, and it was never actually addressed either with a ban or limit or errata or anything when many people called for that, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Getting back into Intensifying Power Trunks, this card was, again, mostly just an evolved target, but it was actually very good back in the day, especially when we had Legendary Flute at 4. If you guys have read through the ban list, you'll see that Legendary Flute is now banned, but this card used to be very good because back then there wasn't nearly as much Self-Awaken built into the game as there is now, and his rate of just being a one-drop 15k critical that also essentially drew a card / took a life was very good in aggro decks, but it's also very good in Chain Zeno decks. Chain Attack Trunks, though, the main offender, I guess you could say, of this combo, evolve for 2 over a Trunks GT, so you could pull this combo off as early as turn 2 if you played an Intensifying Power Trunks on 1 and then evolved into Chain Attack on 2, and then when he's played, that's the important part, you choose up to one of your battle cards in your hand to 15,000 power or less, and play it. The main card that was discovered to be super busted with this combo was Zeno the Playing God. So he's a 7-drop 15k blue battle card with 0 combo power, funnily enough. When you play this card, negate all other battle card skills. Notice that does not say choose, so that's going to get around barrier. And then the rest of the effect reads, then choose all cards in both players' hands as well as all other battle cards and return them to their decks. Shuffle both decks afterwards and both players draw 5 cards. So the way this card was designed to be played was to be casted for 7 and be a total reset that pretty much put both players at an even game state. Chain Attack Trunks came out and said, no, in red decks, we're going to cheat this guy out on turn 2. So this is a super powerful combo for that. It was essentially the biggest enabler of the blue-red combo decks of the time, then eventually mono-red that just happened to play a couple copies of Zeno for this combo. But yeah, the crazy thing about it back then was being in the blue-red color combination. That was quite arguably the best color combination for quite some time, at least at the beginning of set 3. Then, as many of you guys know, Blue-Yellow Storm took over and was easily the best deck for several formats. But yeah, in blue-red, being able to play cards like Intensifying Power Trunks and cards like Sensu Bean and cards like Foreseeing Hit and just kind of jumble all those up into the same deck amongst other blue and red staples from back in the day, that was very powerful in and of its own right. And you can, charge all these different cards, especially your 0 combo Zenos that you weren't actually going to play, and then enable Sensu Bean. But yeah, that was just good for deck construction, but the combo itself was so powerful because we didn't have any counterplay, and literally counterplay was like a keyword back then that was barely used. Really only yellow decks and even more so like Frieza decks could stop this, because Crusher Ball was a relatively popular counterplay back then tied to yellow, but it didn't actually stop any effects. Cold Bloodlust was the only counterplay back then that actually stopped battle card effects. But again, you had to be playing a Frieza Army Leader, which, depending on the time of the format you're looking at, wasn't viable in any way, shape, or form, especially after certain hits on the ban list took place. This is me kind of just giving you the simplified version without getting into an entire history of set 3 format, which was a crazy roller coaster for the Dragon Ball Super card game. But yes, this combo was insanely powerful because, one, it would reset both players' advantages. So if your opponent was either destroying you on the board or towering you in hand size, you'd just be able to reset that. And then you'd also have your leader attack or any other effects that you could proc in that turn that would draw you cards, and then you can actually retake the advantage and then realize, you're generating a 15k attack as well as your leader that hasn't attacked yet. So that's just really, really good. But now what I want to talk about as to why this combo can make a return is because of the printing of Trunks Adventures Advent. This is simply a Trunks that when you play it, it draws a card. It's technically a better enabler for this combo than Intensifying Power Trunks is, at least in the current iteration of Dragon Ball Super, because it'll help you find your combo pieces, which is pretty cool, right? I mean, most decks don't really need the Self-Awaken that Trunks offers, and a 1-drop 15k crit is much easier to defend, whether that's through negates, floodgates, or battle tricks, than it was back then, right? So the fact that this card simply exists means that Chain Attack Trunks is really interesting to look back on. I thought about this more so when the card was actually revealed and the whole GT deck was shown, and I kind of wanted to build a deck around it, but I haven't quite done that yet. I kind of put that idea on the back burner to test the actual form of GT, to test other things in the set. I'll probably revisit this now that I'm making a video about it, but this was a really crazy concept to explore now that this card's here. But one thing I wanted to mention to you guys, again, that don't really know about Chain Zeno or weren't playing at that time, these were the 3 main leaders that strategy saw a lot of success with. First off, going into SS3, the crazy thing about Chain Zeno was that if you could play SS3, ramp up to it, and then you weren't quite yet awakened, the leader is a draw 2 on awakened leader. So you would Chain Zeno your opponent and then awaken, draw 2 more cards. So like I was talking about before, resetting that advantage to technically neutral, but now you're activating an effect that's going to get you more cards, and then leader swing, get another card, and then swing with Zeno for added pressure. That's just crazy. Blue-red Hurdogarn was also very good for quite some time, just using the leader ability to filter through your deck. Again, you weren't taking your life very quickly, so you could chain Zeno as many times as you wanted in the early game, and then you're going to pick up all those lives later on to just add to your hand, and you were ideally trying to push your opponent down in low life because all the cards they added to their hand were going to get shuffled back into their deck. And that was a really strong way to counteract the essential mechanic of the game, where doing damage to your opponent gives them more cards. This combo essentially made that fact null and void, if that makes sense. And then Pan Ready to Fight was probably the best red leader to play the engine, because the leader says when you play a battle card, you can choose that card, it gains 5,000 power for the turn, and then if the power of the card is 20,000 or more, you draw 1. So you could play your Chain Attack Trunks and then your Pan Auto will go into pending, but the way the Dragon Ball Super card game works, this is a good teaching point if you guys don't know. When you have multiple autos that are triggering at the same time, you can choose the order in which they resolve. And if you have a new auto that's going to kind of interrupt that quote-unquote chain, you can even interrupt that and resolve a new auto. So here's what I'm trying to say. In this deck, you could play Chain Attack Zeno. Now your Pan is procced because you played a battle card, but you can resolve Chain Attack's effect first to play Zeno. Pan still hasn't resolved yet, but even though it's already been procced, you can actually resolve Zeno's full effect to reset the advantage, and then now you can finally resolve Pan to boost Zeno and draw your card. So in Pan, you were automatically essentially gaining the advantage over your opponent just by using Chain Zeno, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of maybe hard to see or visualize without the cards all on screen, but that's how it would work. It's kind of crazy, but if you guys didn't know about ordering autos like that, it's good to know going forward. But anyways, these are 3 of the decks that were insane with the strategy back then. And I want to talk about some things that will maybe counteract Chain Zeno, because you got to think about it this way. The combo was never really hit in any meaningful way. It pretty much just got phased out of the game. Hasn't been played in quite some time. So I want to talk about reasons why that might be, because even though this combo is technically broken, there's got to be reasons why no one's playing it, right? One of those big reasons is probably going to be SS Trunks Godsling technique. There are a lot more counterplays in the game now than there were back then. And a lot of those can actually interrupt you at the 1-drop Trunks level, because, red can minus it very easily upon play. You have other effects that might be able to remove it, especially in green, for example. But God Sealing is one of the only counterplays that's really popular in the current metagame that actually stops the effects of either a 4 cost or a 7 cost. There are a few other counterplays like, I don't know, Focus Breakthrough, Super Kamehameha, that can stop things like Intensifying Trunks from being played. But, you know, if your opponent has another copy of a 1-drop Trunks, or they can somehow still get into their chain attack, you want to be able to stop the 4-drop or the 7-drop beating Zeno. And Godsling is one of the only cards, again, that is popular in the current meta that can do that. So theoretically, there's not that much counterplay that exists, at least in terms of chain attack and Zeno. Again, Intensifying, a lot more vulnerable, but that's neither here nor there. The other thing is Unisons. Zeno does not do anything to Unisons. Obviously, that card came out at a time where Unisons were not a thing, probably not even a thought in anyone at Bandai's brain yet. So with that in mind, if you have a card like Machikobara on board, or even like Blue Boo Unison, you're not going to feel the effects as much if you were to get Chain Zeno. That's very, very true. The other things about Chain Zeno is kind of just how the game has progressed since that combo was relevant. And what I mean by that is most decks either awaken turn 2 or just draw a massive hand inherently, or are able to establish a board very quickly. And by doing all these things, you typically don't want to chain attack Zeno all the time. Like, especially the red pan deck and the SS3 deck that I mentioned before, they were notoriously bad in the early game comparative to other decks because they didn't draw an insane hand for free like some other decks did, like particularly certain builds of Hirudegarn, like Storm Hirudegarn. They didn't draw like massive hands early game. They would specifically, purposefully, you know, play down on cards and just aim to chain Zeno you when you were ahead at an advantage. That's what they would aim to do. Nowadays, decks are not really playing like that. Decks are a lot faster. Decks are, you know, getting their engines online way earlier, and archetypes are more of a thing. So unless you're playing just like a mono red good stuff type of deck, you're probably not going to be able to fit the Chain Zeno engine in your deck unless you wanted to specifically build the deck around it, and that's kind of a more interesting thing to do. So yeah, just the way the game has changed over time, as well as, you know, these cards being a factor, is definitely leading to the fact of Chain Zeno being phased out. But that still leads me to think that if you're playing against someone who, one, either never played during Chain Zeno and doesn't know what it does, or two, you're playing against 99% of players that are not going to expect it. Like 100% honesty, if you sat down with some sort of rogue red leader, I'm not going to expect you're playing Chain Zeno. Like, unless I see you charge a chain attack Trunks, I'm not going to expect it in a million years. You'll get me within game 1, and then I'll fall back on my fundamentals to try to play around it in games 2 and 3, but it's going to be freaking crazy game 1. But anyways, the deck that can obviously house it pretty well nowadays is probably the new GT deck. So the new GT deck is looked at as a very aggressive deck, which it is. It's very good at doing that, especially now that we've got hits to King Piccolo, Gogeta, Zeno on the ban list. This is looking to be one of the premier aggro decks of next format. But you have to keep in mind that this deck has a plethora of ways to play Trunks battle cards for 1 energy and then go into chain attack. So remember that thing I was talking about before where Intensifying Power Trunks is very vulnerable? You have multiple ways to play a Trunks for 1 energy in the GT deck, and then pay 2, go into chain attack, take your opponent's advantage away. Again, if they don't have a counterplay that can stop the chain attack or the Zeno. The cool thing about GT is that, 1, with your Unison, you're going to be putting battle cards under that Unison, and those are not going to be afflicted by Zeno. So you have extra battle cards you can play at any time post Zeno, which is crazy. The other thing too is you don't really have to awaken early in this deck. You can chain Zeno your opponent and then awaken if you have the appropriate amount of markers on your Unison. And then just like we were talking about SS3 and some other decks, you can awaken, draw your 2 cards, take your life, and now you're sitting at like 9 cards in hand before a leader swing to your opponent's 5 cards, which is kind of insane. It just seems like crazy in concept. Again, I haven't really played a GT Zeno deck myself. Maybe I would notice problems with it if I were to do that, but it's kind of wild to think about. So, I mean, in conclusion, I've explained the combo to you guys. For those of you guys that don't know it, I've talked about how it could relatively easily, theoretically at least, come back into the format thanks to some new enablers. But of course, guys, I want in the comments below what you think about this. Let me know, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will talk to you guys there. Yo, Dragon Ballers, quick break in the video to give a huge shout out to PPG, who is going above and beyond to make our organized play season the best that it can possibly be. I'm here on the PPG event management website. I'm going to link this down in the description, so all you have to do to sign up for any of these events is go down to that link. But anyways, real quick, we have MomoCon at the end of May, where there is a guaranteed case tournament for Dragon Ball Super. Next up is the Origins event, which is a huge one, guys. They have events going from Wednesday to Saturday. Practically every single day of the con, you can play a Dragon Ball Ball Super event, among other card games. It's going to be an absolutely incredible time. Next up, after that, we have an event in Denver, which is for the Pro Play Tour organized season. Not only are you playing for an invite to the Pro Play Invitational, but you're also playing for $2,000 guaranteed. And if you want to, guys, there is also a Team War event in that same weekend, and Team War is one of the best formats to play. If you haven't played a tournament with your friends, you absolutely have to do it. And then finally, an event that I know for sure that I'll be attending is the Too Many Games convention in Philadelphia. This is actually a regional for the regular Dragon Ball Super organized play season. So again, guys, super huge shout out to PPG. Secondly, this website is so awesomely laid out. All you have to do is go to this website. All these different tabs here will take you to the events you want to sign up for. I hope to see you guys there. Let's get back into the video.